A random encounter at a broadcasting facility. A shared interest and love of all things Marvel.
Excelsior!
A misinterpreted program title. And behold, a podcast is born.
Peter Melnick.
Podcaster and comic book enthusiast. And
Eddie Wilson!
Upstate New York radio announcer, still with an inordinate amount of catching up to do.
Peter, what are you doing? Eddie!
Here we go with a new episode of The Marvelists.
Welcome, everyone, to The Marvelists, the Marvel Universe podcast, Deconstructing WandaVision. Before we get into the usual rigmarole of today's episode and introducing our very special guest co-host, yes, Eddie, co-host, I will still die on this hill about that term, but...
You were right. You were totally right.
Thank you. But before we get into the usual rigmarole of dissecting or deconstructing that dead robot, we want to tell you all at home how you can get a hold of us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at The Marvelists. If you want to listen to the show, just Google The Marvelists. You can also find us on, let's see, what else? Individual social media. I should have done that part, but, well, whatever. But individually, Eddie is Eddie9193, I believe, on Instagram.
Yep.
And I'm at Peter Melnick on pretty much everything except TikTok. And it's at Peter Melnick, but better. You can also show support for the show on Patreon at patreon.com/themarvelists. Support the show, get love and rewards and all that. And also early access to episodes, as well as Fantastic Voyage, our 102-issue journey, plus annuals, plus whatever the hell we can find, of Stan and Jack's iconic Fantastic Four run. Also support the show on belowthecollar.com. It's a subsidiary of 1hourtees/prowrestlingtees.com, and you can get our brand new shirt, Dad Joke Immune, featuring my favorite 5-star review of the show that somehow was positive yet wasn't. Anyway, John, first off, welcome back. How was your assignment in Guam/Uganda/Krakoa/whatever?
Oh, it was great. You know, a lot of sun, a lot of waves. Glad to be back in studio though. So thanks.
Now, John, joining us on this episode is a man who is responsible for counting the numbers 1, 2, and 3 really slow from time to time. He is WWE referee Jason Ayers. Jason, good morning. That didn't even work, like ominous.
Good morning, guys. How's everybody?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. How you doing today?
I'm great, man. Wonderful day here in beautiful Orlando, where we're experiencing our 2 weeks of winter, and it's dipping into the 50s. So
that sounds like
same.
so
I'm not totally
chilly.
Snowed in right now. Literally snowed into my house right now.
Unbelievable.
I've been experiencing 2 4-day weekends in a row. My job has given me snow days, and it is delightful. So
Nice.
I mean, I've been stuck in the house, but one of those benefits of being stuck in the house is watching this week's episode of WandaVision, episode number 7. First off, right off the bat with the title, I think it was called Breaking the Fourth Wall.
You're right.
I'll be honest, I was kind of bummed out that it's very on the nose and it's very much, something like, are they going to do it? This month marks the 30th anniversary of one Wade Wilson, Deadpool. Would have been kind of neat to finally see, that's like a surprise cameo, But it wasn't.
Oh my God.
But
imagine a Deadpool cameo. That's what I said. I don't expect to see any real high budget actor in this, because again, when they were making this, they had no way to know if it was going to be popular. So having Ryan Reynolds in costume as Deadpool come out would be so expensive. And what if the show flops in the second week, So I don't personally really expect there to be a big established person. That's why I liked the Reed Richards angle, because if it was a character, it's an actor that obviously hadn't shown up yet. I don't think we're going to see an Avenger or anyone like that come into play in this show.
So we'll see a Justice Leaguer?
Yeah.
Well, supposedly there is a rumor going around about whether or not it will be Reed Richards, played by the not that Cran man, Bryan Cranston, but the other Cran man, John Krasinski, because he's crazy for craisins. But the rumor is Paul Bettany has been doing the media rounds for the show and remarked that he's going to be working alongside somebody that, well, he's always wanted to work with his entire career. And in past interviews, Paul has stated that he idolized 3 actors growing up. They were Robert De Niro, Marlon Brando, and Al Pacino. And the thing about that is this. I don't think we would ever see De Niro in a Marvel project, at least for the foreseeable future, because he did Joker in 2019, and he's also really tight with Mr. Eyebrows himself, and, you know, he's eyebrows goals for myself, but Martin Scorsese.
I'll throw my hat in the ring. Yeah, I'm not sure we're going to see Marlon Brando show up anytime soon either.
Oh, I mean, you know, don't count him out, you know. The horror.
Hey, Vision can come back.
And it's very possible because after 2014, when he did the rounds in media talking about it, he just randomly brought it up that he would love to be involved after watching Guardians of the Galaxy. Mr. Ooh-ah himself, Al Pacino, did meet with Marvel. He did meet with Kevin Feige. So, gentlemen, let's say, hypothetically speaking, this were to happen. I was going to say Marlon Brando, and I realized I would have botched that. But Al Pacino, Marvel Universe, who do you cast him as? Jason, you're first.
Man. So, I mean, jumping ahead a little bit here, I think we get a reveal of a big bad at some point in the next 2 episodes. Whether that's Mephisto, whether that's Nightmare, whether that's, somebody above, spoiler alert, the heel turn that we see in this episode. But, would Mephisto be a good Pacino role?
I was going to say, I think I could see... Well, I think so, because he would either just be a voice if they're going, the real demon route, and then if he had to go into human mode at any point, that, his look could definitely fit for a devil figure as well. So I think that would be a really good casting, because his voice is famous enough, but he also could have that... He looks the part where he doesn't look the part of most, I think, Marvel characters otherwise anymore. So I like that a lot.
Yeah. I'm the devil.
All right, I'm going to do... So here's what I want, and this is... I'm talking Whiplash recasting.
Oh, but I like Mickey
Iron Man
Rourke.
2, no more Mickey Rourke. Whiplash coming back with Al Pacino.
No.
I'm
vetoing that.
I've got a soft spot for Mickey Rourke after
Same.
The Wrestler and Randy the Ram.
Same.
I don't know. I would love to see him back more than Pacino.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah.
Mini aside real quick, speaking of the wrestler, every time I think of that, I think of the legendary Josh Rosengrant, his opinion of the ending of the movie when he goes to do the Ram Jam. He always jokingly would say, they cut to black right when he's in midair, and he likes to think that Randy the Ram is stuck in midair floating just in, eternally in space. And they had to pull him down with, ropes and everything. So... Poor Ram Jam just floating off midair. The point of that story was I like stories.
Maybe that's one of the multiverses that we pluck him just like Pietro and he just falls in the middle of Westview in mid Ram Jam.
Only if we can also get Ernest Miller as his character from The Wrestler to play a car dealer.
I'm in.
Somebody call his mama and agent. But in regards to also going back over to Pacino, by the way, you guys do realize this will not be the first time Pacino plays the devil if this is the case. Go back to 1997, Keanu Reeves, The Devil's Advocate. So
I have not seen that, but that makes me feel even better about it.
I feel like if that is the case, it might be a little too on the nose because, again, a lot of people were speculating with this episode, let's say Reed Richards does show up and Reed Richards is played by John Krasinski. I feel like that's a little too on the nose with the episode being a love letter to The Office and also, other mockumentary style shows such as Modern Family and Parks and Rec.
Yeah, I saw this mostly as a Modern Family take.
The opening,
I think
though,
Office obviously and the theme song obviously was for The Office, but I think in terms of style, it was pretty heavily Modern Family exclusively. I mean, obviously other shows have a similar vibe, but it felt like it was just specifically going for the Modern Family route. Given what I've seen of Modern Family, which has not happened in a few years, so
I was gonna say it definitely felt like it was more of a Modern Family style than a Office style. In the Office piece. Now, I wonder though if that Office intro was more of a nod to those of us that were like, oh my God, we're gonna get John Krasinski as Reed Richards, even though we've already got Jim Halpert in the show playing Jimmy Woo. I would be lying if I didn't. Yeah, right. I would be lying if I said I didn't stand up from my couch when that Office intro kicked on, thinking, "Oh my God, are we going to get him?" And spoiler alert, we not so much.
I was excited to see it because it was close. I was in my kitchen doing dishes and I was dancing along to it. I was all happy. I was like, "Oh, this will be interesting." I loved the style choice. I loved it. I think, like just the asides and stuff where they're cutting to the couches and all that made me laugh. I think, I guess the reason I liked it so much is because it finally doesn't feel like ham-handed. Because when you're doing all the other stuff is outdated. So like when you're doing the 90s and the 80s and the 70s, it definitely, the WandaVision show in a show feels like obviously a little more like cliche. And so seeing something that is modern definitely makes it feel less cliche. And I think it's funny because if you go 10 years in the future, people watching the show are going to see this episode as still being a cliche. But it kind of like felt, I don't know, everything was brought up to speed. And I think that was obviously done on purpose, but it was nice because since the show is unraveling, since WandaVision inside of WandaVision is unraveling, it's kind of up to speed with what we're doing in the modern day anyways. So it kind of, I don't know, I think stylistically fits really well, timing-wise.
And in regards to the idea of not introducing Krasinski in this episode, I feel like they're doing something really good with the idea of not making everything so expected, Like, with Darcy Lewis getting brought into Wanda's Hex, a lot of people I know were expecting her to maybe reprise her role, Kat Dennings' role from the show Two Broke Girls, in the style of being a waitress. And I'm just like,
yes,
that's too on the nose. That's very, like, you want that to happen, so it won't happen. And it's like, I feel like things like that can be a low-hanging fruit with that. And with that, like I mentioned back in episode number 2/3, when, we had in the first episode, what's her name? The one from that 70s show, and she did not show up in the 70s episode at all. And I was like, oh, I wanted to see Kitty Foreman again. But again, that's what we're expecting to see happen and ends up, not happening. And again, it leads to a minor disappointment, but I feel everything else that the episode accomplishes makes up for that, 1 second of disappointment.
And I feel like there's a little bit of that fine line between fan service and pandering there too. Yeah. Oh, we got you. We gave you what you expected. When also this is the same episode where we're getting that reveal of Agnes and Agatha, which, those of us that follow any sort of the source material have kind of seen coming from the first 3 seconds of the first episode that's where this is headed. And so it's, you're already getting that reveal that isn't really a reveal because it's coming and it's expected. If they throw all these other little moments of, oh, there's the other thing. Oh, okay. They're painting by numbers on this episode.
Yeah.
Yes. I think subverting expectations is sometimes as important as like making those expectations. So as long as you're doing a mixture, which they've been doing, I think they have had some expected stuff, some unexpected stuff. And I think this episode, there was a lot of I think props were much more important with like the little details in the props in this episode. And I think the reason is stylistically, like 2010's shows had more of that stuff because since the internet became super popular, people go and they look at the fan theories. So I think the little props throughout the episode are interesting. Some of which were just like, the cereal she ate was called Sugar Snaps. Ha ha ha. Some of it was more like, there was little things that I got. There was a blur when she was pouring the milk. There was like a missing child on the label that like was a little blonde boy. And I don't know what that means. I was looking at it and I don't know if it means that.
It means his family is missing him.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm curious if some of this stuff is plot driven or not. There was one prop at the end of the episode that was very much a plot thing. If you guys saw in Agatha's like layer, there was a book there that was from from the Sorcerer Supreme library that was missing, which was a huge like tie-in that makes me feel like, Mephisto gave that to this Agatha witch to make her powerful, and he's not going to be in this show, but he's going to show up in Doctor Strange. It felt like a very, very obvious connection that just like clicks a lot of that stuff together for me, at least.
For sure. Talking props, the other thing I noticed, there was a lot of red and gold throughout the show. So like Wanda's dishes when she went to pour pour herself a bowl of cereal, they were all red and gold. The Nexus ad was red and gold. I wonder if that's where we're going. If it is a Mephisto reveal as the big bad of the show at some point, even if it's just a quick moment or something, if that's the color scheme we're going with there, is a red with kind of a gold bit on the outfit, and then we're kind of laying the groundwork for that in this episode too.
Not a prop, but a line that was remarked during the episode that got a kick out of me as somebody who is a cord cutter. I appreciated hearing the remark about how we can no longer get the signal from the hex from inside. It's no longer coming through. Back around 2011, 2012, the FCC mandated that they're no longer allowed any network or station to have a over-the-air broadcasting feed. They can get over an antenna. So when that line came up, I was thinking to myself, oh, they're acknowledging now it's a new age where you can't get a television signal through like a classic style antenna. So
cool. Yeah,
it's a neat little Easter egg.
At all.
And, as something like that just, it's, if you are into that kind of sort of stuff, they're actually now officially finally going through with it. And all of those antenna style receptions you can no longer get as of this upcoming summer. So,
I don't know. I think they're. All right, here's my question. I guess since we're talking about Mephisto now, do you think Mephisto was the cameraman that called out Wanda or not?
That's a good call.
Because here's my thought. Like the cameraman's on for sure. The cameraman isn't someone in the town, because he's speaking to her of his own accord. He's existing outside of that, so he is someone else. I will say, if it is Mephisto, the voice that I listened to that line a couple times. Do you think it's because you deserve it or whatever? And it didn't sound very Mephisto-y, so I don't know. I really hope they're not going the Ayers route from the Wonder Woman movie, where it's like the most unassuming guy, where, I hope Mephisto's imposing. I'd be mad if he wasn't, but the voice didn't sound like an imposing figure, but that camera guy is important. Like he's not just a townsfolk, he's someone else.
See, I was thinking it was a townsperson.
Really? Yeah?
Yeah.
So, do you think Agatha pulled, a townsperson out? Because he's acting from Beyond the Wall. He's part of the film crew, not one of the actors. You know what I mean? That would be very interesting if it was a townsperson. That's what I'll say.
Maybe it's a demon.
Could be, yeah. Well, that's what I'm thinking. It might not be Mephisto. Maybe it's just someone else, that is filling that, demon role of some kind. But I'm curious.
And that remark where Wanda goes, "You're not supposed to talk." Mm. Or how did she say it?
It's straight. I mean, she's in on it to a point,
Yeah. It's just very ominous.
Is this something like maybe similar to the mailman, where he's somebody because we keep seeing him? Is that mailman character tied in with all this, the delivery man?
There's a couple people that just seem like they're kind of floating above where everyone else is floating. So I'm curious, who are those people? Not the same as the others, or are those people just more mentally fit or fortitude?
Yeah.
Personally, I wish the one person in the town, the one guy in the town would come back. The mustache guy. I really miss him, and I'm shocked that he has not shown up since I think episode 3 or 4.
When the power went out, yeah, he was really funny. He was one of the better parts of the first half of the season. I agree completely. I wish he was around more. Spinoff time?
I would hope so.
Neighborhood Watch spinoff show. Come on.
He could be in charge of the new Warriors. Give him a skateboard. He could be the new Night Thrasher.
Dude, that would be such a good superhero team. They're the Neighborhood Watch, and they're just going around taking care of like the smallest time stuff. It's like the Great Lakes Avengers kind of thing.
Like a procedural cop drama, but like not a good one.
Yeah, like just it's stupid. And I would watch that. I would watch that before I'd watch Falcon and Winter Soldier. I'd prefer to see that first.
Well, we got one viewer through Nielsen. Now, also with this episode did not have a commercial where it was as controversial as last week's. I want to rewind back to last week's episode with that commercial because there were a lot of heated debates about that commercial, and I'm one of those people. I think it's really stupid to say that the shark represents Thanos. No, it does not. It does not whatsoever. I completely disagree because he's not purple enough.
I agree with you. Yes. It's one of those things like you can tie a line to whatever you want. Like, you know what I mean? Since Thanos is a character archetype, you could tie him to it, I guess. But I think like what's really the point of that? I took it more as, and we didn't discuss this because I was off the air, but I took it more as like the townsfolk being unable to control themselves and to eat, and like the kid dies even though he has food because he can't eat it. Like I took that as like that's what's happening to the townsfolk, which is I guess is a little darker, but like that seemed more likely to me than Thanos is as a representation, you know?
Especially the weakness of the child trying to open it. He can't do it. And they're not allowed to really do anything. Like there's, the woman last week doing the thing with the clothesline over and over and over.
I wondered if it was more of an analogy for Wanda that she's trying to feed her missing piece, by recreating Vision and bringing him back, but it's not quite what you need to feed that hunger that she has.
Her, yeah.
Exactly. And
nice.
And starves to death, but from a grief standpoint, from her soul starves to death.
Yeah, I could see that. That's a good interpretation, I think. And I think some of this stuff that's all it's going to be. Like, it's not like there's not some greater answer. It's just how you interpret it. And so I like that interpretation a lot, actually.
And again, with this episode and the previous one, I like that there are moments like that where they lead to massive amounts of debates because this is what we want for this. We want this kind of discourse for the show, Mm-hmm. And with, this week's episode, what did you guys think of the commercial?
It was fine. It didn't give me much. Maybe that's my fault. I guess maybe I was excited for the rest of the episode, but I thought it was all right. It didn't hit me like some of the other commercials have.
Yeah, I don't think there's quite as much to really interpret on this one, like we've had on the last few that have clearly been references to to her traumas over the years, and over the movies and over what we've seen thus far. But like I feel like this one might end up being more important to where we're going in the future with the bringing up the Nexus and the fact that obviously in the source material she's the Nexus of all realities, and that one thing that's the same in all the various universes of the multiverse.
That's the thing about that. And I would also say in regards to it, I feel like it was very much if you have to go with going back to the whole concept of Thanos being, the point of one of the commercials, this one would be more Thanos due to the nihilism of the commercial, like right at the very end, where it's just like, whatever, And, Thanos being the ultimate nihilist, especially in the comics, the source material in the original, Jim Starlin run, that's what Thanos is. He is a nihilist completely. So that kind of wording of how the commercial ends, it's basically literally the commercial going, or whatever, I don't care. So it's very, very apropos. And
yes, no, I agree.
Let's talk about the big deal about this episode, that quote unquote twist, which we all saw coming, but was still pretty damn baller when it did happen. I'm of course talking about Sparky dying. Damn her.
Yeah, an unfortunate moment. I like how much the internet kind of blew up about that.
it was very much a I love how it went back to the 1950s 1960s style of jingle for it too, because you don't like it was very much a kind of like a recap of everything going on, because you see the recap in the sense of, you know, her actions and everything and all of her old costumes, but then you see the recap of just everything through the story, you know?
You know, I think it kind of hammers home from a storytelling standpoint that if you really need to turn a character heel, to borrow a phrase, just have him kill the family dog. And it's pretty cemented at that point. Like, that is a bad guy, and there is no going back from that now.
Yes. Well, that's like everyone on the internet was like, I can excuse this, but going killing Scruffy's too far, you know? The John Wick memes have been ridiculous.
Oh, I loved that. I've seen one of those, and I wanted to share it on the page, but I'm just like, 24-hour spoiler rule. I don't want to risk it.
Yeah, I've seen just 5 of the same, like John Wick loading his pistol shot. It just makes me laugh. And I think too, the reason, what I'll say with this jingle is it seemingly ties up the sitcom angle to the show. Like, the show started with that, 50s, 60s kind of vibe. And that episode just ended there. It ended with the black and white. It ended with that jingle. And I think that puts a bow on the genres. And I don't think we're going to see any more sitcom stuff. We're not going to see any more television show stuff. It's just going to be all of the characters in the drama that is the outside world has been in is going to be what the entire show is from now on. So I do believe that's why the show ended the way it did, is to kind of wrap up that's the end of the show.
I think it'd be hilarious if they did a mini episode in the style of comedy shows of this decade, where it's literally just Zoom meetings with face masks.
We all cry.
But
yeah,
I very much appreciated the jingle and just the style, because it was very much of its time, and it encapsulated what the character of Agatha Harkness is about. And I love watching people, for some people, that they got the name Agatha Harkness and then Agnes. Agnes is a hot mixture of the two names together. They literally had the exploding mind gif reaction to that. I'm just like, you just got this? You've been late to class for how many weeks now?
Yeah. Yeah, but it's interesting. I don't know. I think she's a good villain, though. She's definitely shown her chops. I've seen her mostly in comedic roles, and I think that
she was still comedic in that.
It's funny because she's still funny. She's got the people. Someone has said the Creed moment of I've been a kid once as her aside, and she's got the laugh, and she has a funny dynamic character. She's still playing. She's a character actress, but it is also something more sinister than I've ever seen her in, because she usually just does dumb comedies or whatever. "Quote unquote dumb."
Yeah, everybody in this show has been absolutely killing it from an acting standpoint. Between her and Elizabeth Olsen and Paul Bettany and Kat Dennings, everybody across the board on this show has just shown new range that you didn't see from them prior to this. I feel like
Catherine Hahn's
completely agree.
Catherine Hahn's newest range is dog killing, apparently. So that's really impressive of her. But a little bit dark, nice. John. You can edit that one out.
No. Don't worry, I won't.
But
no, I agree. I think, and I'm just so excited because I love that mixing genres of I think TV is in some capacities a better storytelling medium than movies. I think movies are really good for event-based things, a big purple alien just killed half the population. That's a good movie plot because it's an event. But in terms of character development, shows are just so much better because you just have more time to explore. And so I think using both of those things in tandem is what makes for the best franchises, where you can have TV shows that extrapolate characters with movies that push events that are important. And I think that's where Marvel's going to go, where it's pretty much going to be mini-series for different characters and different story arcs that give you important information. And then when you put Paul Bettany or when you put Elizabeth Olsen back on the big screen, you're going to care more. And so I think that's something that they're going to keep doing. And I think their success is going to push, this is where the future, I think, of media is going to be. I believe that if you can afford it, you're going to see franchises doing both canon, same universe, TV and film.
Yeah, and the episodic nature of this really helps from keeping the discussion alive standpoint too, because being a weekly episodic release, just like any other TV show, you get that week of discussion of, okay, what's going to happen next week? Okay, what's going to happen next week? And it keeps the discussion alive for 8-9 weeks wherever we're at. And just about the time you finally processed everything that happened in this show, well, a week to catch your breath, and now it's time for Falcon and Winter Soldier. And it keeps that, it keeps Marvel in the forefront. I think they kind of figured this out with The Mandalorian too, but it keeps that IP in the forefront of pop culture discussion, which is huge from a marketing standpoint. Whereas with a movie, okay, so it's been out for 2-3 weeks now, and now it's kind of starting to taper off, and it's on to Wreck-It Ralph 3 or whatever.
And that's the thing about, keeping it in the public conscious. The idea of especially memeability, and I've brought this up on the show before, but again, any person's episode might be their first, Stan Lee theory. But with that, I absolutely loved Cobra Kai. And it was one of those shows, I binged the third season over that weekend. And that was one of the few times I've actually gone out and done that. And I feel like no one's talking about Cobra Kai anymore, at all. And the only way I've seen Cobra Kai referenced in recent memory was in a Cobra Kai shitposting group I'm in on Facebook. And it's otherwise no one else is talking about it. And, if you guys remember, Henry Cavill in The Witcher, his, expletive-ridden meme of, fuck, that just disappeared. That was a meme for a grand total of 2 weeks. Meanwhile, and again, I will always use this as the biggest example, The Mandalorian, every single week there was a new meme with the exception of 1 week. And it was always in the public consciousness. And WandaVision is still in the public consciousness because now this week, the big thing talking about is Agatha Harkness and what she did. Last week was a lot of discussion about the commercial, a lot of discussion about, the Malcolm in the Middle element of it. It's always going to be there for the foreseeable future. And then it builds up, week by week by week, and then you combine it all together and it has a much more lasting impression. People are still talking about, Grogu on The Mandalorian. There's that. It's always going to be there. So I think it's smart with how they're doing this.
I agree. When it's one of those, if you throw enough stuff at a wall, eventually something's going to stick. And I will say we haven't talked about one of the other most important aspects of this episode so far, Monica Rambeau, who is now Photon? The next Captain Marvel? I don't know. I think personally she's going to fill Captain Marvel role because maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like Captain Marvel was not a character everyone liked. They didn't love not even the movie or whatever. I think some people really didn't like the character. And so I could see them pulling Brie Larson back a little bit and having, Photon be the kind of replacement for Earth, a more Earth-based whatever, and you see Captain Marvel sometimes in the intergalactic sphere or for the big movies, but you're going to see Monica Rambeau maybe more. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I have viewed her potential character arc.
I think Next Wave is the next thing, although it's a little bit of a murky kind of thing due to the creator of Next Wave, Warren Ellis, kind of being a scumbag. So take that for what you will.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I think we will see. I mean, I don't know if just because if a creator's got issues, if they're not going to use a storyline, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I guess it depends. And I think a lot of it too depends on how contentious really a figure is. If a Main Street audience is going to not know about, the creator of, a comic book series, then they're not going to care,
Also, I should say alleged scumbag, just in case. But in regards to that, with the character of Monica, I absolutely loved everything she was doing in this episode. And I also enjoyed, she kept doing it in little moments. She was doing the superhero landing a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's
it's
further...
Yeah.
it's so furthering home that she is a hero and she has that ability to be one. And I'm excited to see where they go with her character, because she honestly could be a leader of a team in the Marvel universe, because she has that stoicness, she has that resolve, she has that ability. So fingers crossed.
She's gonna be. I mean, I think she's gonna be the sword commander at some point, at the very least. Or they'll take her more the superhero route, like working outside the government or whatever, and she'll lead a team. But she definitely's got the leadership capability. I'm just looking for more from her in terms of like emotional development. Like so far, she's a good character in terms of like being in it and like getting stuff done, but I don't see inside her head a lot. Like, you know what I mean? She's not one of those characters we have an emotional attachment to. I was describing it last night to my friend as like, she seems like the friend that you like a lot but only see in group settings. Like, that's how I feel about her character, and I really hope they give her an emotional arc at some point.
Yeah, she needs something where she's where it's a primary vehicle for her, as opposed to a secondary character in Wanda and Vision's story.
Yeah, I think she'll get it too.
I do too.
We'll see. I think she will get it. People like her, so I think she'll get that. Until then, I'm like, I think she could do well, but I'm not committed to her yet. I don't love her yet. I hope that they give me a reason to.
Now, overall, what would you guys say is your general feelings of this episode?
I was going to say, I enjoyed this one. I feel like this was, like you said, kind of a wrap-up episode leading into the last 2 episodes being the big, gigantic, epic finale to the 9-episode arc on this entirety. I think it tied up a lot of loose ends while also leaving a lot of things still open to build on going into the climax of the whole story. I enjoyed it. Like you said, it was the last of, feels like at least the last of the sitcom episodes. Because I mean, we can't exactly do a 2020s sitcom per se, or a 2030s sitcom, because we don't know what that's going to be yet. So like, it kind of, there's really nowhere else to go with that arc to it. So, and then obviously the Agatha reveal that we kind of all saw coming had to happen. And to wrap up with that, I think it was a perfect way to end that portion of the show.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good setup arc. I think this is like, it was needed. This is a needed vehicle. This episode is pushing it into like the end game. And what I think will probably, if I had to guess what's going to happen, is obviously Agatha's got the kids. We might see a Mephisto reveal, but I don't think we will. I think it's going to be more hinted at, or like a maybe very for a second kind of thing. And I think they're gonna lose Billy. I think they're gonna have a fight over the kids, trying to get the kids back, and I think we're gonna see Wiccan fall into the hands of evil for now as this end to the series. Maybe not, but this series has enough nuance that I think they're gonna leave it with something negative. They're gonna leave a loose end to be tied later, and I feel like they're gonna take that and manipulate him a bit to give his character a little more nuance. And I think having like the 2 twins on different sides is gonna be interesting, which is gonna be also in my mind a reversed version of having Pietro and Wanda be seemingly on different sides right now. So maybe I'm wrong, but that's like what I would have done if I was writing this show.
Overall, I'd say this was a fun episode. This is the one time for this episode I did not watch the show for a second time, because I feel like all of the beats were there, like in my mind of, okay, this. It was very much a fun episode. And again, that twist, quote unquote twist, that, we did see a mile away, but I feel like it's not the ultimate ending for this, obviously, because again, we still got 2 episodes coming up. And just a little aside, this is a reference to a couple weeks ago when I had mentioned I saw leaked footage. And now that everything's been, officially released, they had shown footage of what we're going to be experiencing in the next episode, but that same footage has been also utilized in upcoming commercials for 8 and 9. Oh boy, we are off to a pretty damn great start with that ending. And it's, from what I've seen, it does look really intense. And I would say I'm going to miss the sitcom element of it because it's, as you know, as someone who prefers comedy more to, you know, serious drama or, you know, just any, like most genres, it is going to be a bummer to see it gone. And I would love to see Marvel utilize a sitcom style again in the near future. Like, if they could pull it off with this, I feel like they could do it with something else as well. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
They keep switching genres, you know, you're doing different things like that, and just showing us different characters and lights that we haven't seen before. I think they're gonna have a lot of success, be it in sitcom or horror or sci-fi or whatever, you know.
And where do you guys see the next 2 episodes going?
You know,
I'll let Jason take, because I already said my piece a little bit there.
Yeah, I feel like this, you know, this is the point you talk about subverting expectations and giving us what we expect at times. I feel like this is the part where we gear shift into what we expect from a Marvel Cinematic release. And now we're going to get the big, you know, explosions and, you know, punchy time and like the superhero story moment. Like, I feel like that's what a lot of these next 2 episodes are going to be is, you know, strong people punching each other.
Now,
Vision and Wanda working together, Monica Rambeau coming in as well versus Agatha, fake Pietro. Yeah, I agree with you.
And speaking of Pietro, that post-credit scene. John, did you see the post-credit scene?
I did. It was weird.
This is the one time I stayed.
That he's a bad guy?
I would say so, and I would say he is a part of her team, Agatha Harkness's team. So
yeah. He seemed. I was expecting him to knock her out. I was expecting like a wooden 2x4 to the back of the head after that line. So I was kind of honestly shocked. Like, I was just like, Snooper's gonna snoop, and then I was expecting this like a smack to black kind of thing. But so yeah, I think I agree. I think it kind of confirms he's part of the team.
Now I wonder though on that scene if, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, after he dropped that line, Monica's eyes flashed that same shade of purple as Agatha Harkness's. So is Pietro through Agatha now mind controlling Monica also? Is that where we're picking up this next episode possibly?
That would be interesting. I don't know if I'd like that, but I could see it happening based on that. Yeah, I don't know. I think that could be an interesting angle with it for sure. I'm really kind of still curious on what Pietro's gig is. Like, I want to know. I'm curious. I hope they explain a little more, you know, villain monologue or something to explain a little more in the next episode or 2.
Well, again, going back over to Pietro, by the way, with the subverting expectations, I also love the fact that we got the Fox character, quote unquote, back. But he's not the Fox character. He's not wearing the band T-shirts. He's not wearing the headphones. He's not, you know, doing all the stuff that we're used to in the Fox verse. And I like that they mix things up a little, but still retained that, you know, sense of flavor to the character. And one of my favorite moments, by the way, from last week was his remark of "You can't bring your dead husband back again." And that line, the way he delivers it, maybe it was just me. He reminded me of like Alan Alda of MASH for some reason as I heard that line, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Alan Alda should join the Marvel Universe. Why not? I would watch that. I think I'm the only one who would watch that.
I think it was definitely a good, I think it was a good setup. I think the show's going in the right direction. I think Mephisto's at this point pretty much confirmed. I don't know if Peter, if you listened to the end of the last week's episode that I recorded on, but
I did.
In the Halloween episode there were a couple very clear shots of like demon inflatables and stuff like that kept getting cut to, like just red inflatable fiery head or the red inflatable used car park tube man, and it just very clearly seemed like big demon is coming. So it's either Mephisto or I don't know. There's a couple other demons I guess it could be, but it's gonna be one of those. I think pretty much, like in my opinion, confirmed at this point. I'd be super surprised if not. You know,
To quote Billy D. Williams in Batman '89, "Ghosts and goblins."
yeah.
So, all right, that's going to put a bow on this episode of Deconstructing WandaVision. But before we go, Jason, thank you for being on the program today.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. This is fun.
Yeah, great talking. Thank you.
And also, Jason, how can people get a hold of you on social media?
So I'm on pretty much every social media in existence as Jason Ayers, Ayers, WWE. And look for the one with the blue check on most of them. But Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everything. Feel free to reach out. I love talking comics.
Very cool. All right, so for the Marvelists, I'm Peter Melnick.
I'm Jason Ayers.
And I'm John Sherburne. Excelsior.
And flame on.
Goodbye. All of the things. See you later.
Alligator.
And I killed the dog.
I don't eat food either.
Porky.